N'Keal Harry, former first-round pick for the New England Patriots. He was drafted with the 32nd pick in the first round of the 2019 NFL Draft. Supposed to be the next great New England Patriots wide receiver after Randy Moss, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. He was supposed to be the next great target that Tom Brady could have thrown to. And up until this point in his career, things have gone probably the polar opposite of what you would have expected from N'Keal Harry. And at this point, I would argue that he would be considered a bust with his current portfolio of NFL action. And the reason we're talking about N'Keal Harry today is that he has demanded or requested a trade from the New England Patriots. And this is only really news, I think, because it's the dog days of the NFL year, where not really much can be talked about, not really much has been said apart from speculation. Obviously, the main thing right now is, okay, what's Carson Wentz going to do in Indianapolis? Is Aaron Rodgers going to be leaving Green Bay? Some of the speculation about what the next season is going to be. So when something concrete happens, some, news happens somewhere along the way, even if it's something as small as a C-rate wide receiver demanding a trade from the New England Patriots, it gets on and it gets news. Now, I'm going to try not to roast N'Keal Harry too hard in this video, and I'm perfectly, ready for any lashback from Patriots fans that I'm going to get on this, although I feel like there's not resentment between N'Keal Harry and Patriots fans, but I'm sure that Patriots fans are more than happy to see him go based on the production that they've seen from him so far, especially if they can get a decent pick for him. But in case, any Patriots fans are super angry, because God forbid that anybody criticizes your favorite football team on the internet, right? I'm going to try not to roast him too hard, and I'm going to try to make things as rational as possible, because I find that this requesting or demanding a trade is absolutely hysterical. And I have got to imagine that when Bill Belichick got the little pamphlet or the news article or whatever from N'Keal Harry's agent saying, "Hi, we are requesting or demanding a trade from the New England Patriots," Bill Belichick probably hasn't smiled in 20 years. And I've got to imagine that he probably let out the biggest belly laugh of his life when N'Keal Harry requested a trade. Whenever somebody demands or requests a trade in professional sports, it's always the superstars, right? Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers hasn't formally requested a trade yet, but God help me if he hasn't already requested a trade in his mind a couple of times from the Green Bay Packers at this point. James Harden requests a trade. Kyrie Irving requests a trade. Deshaun Watson requests a trade. Russell Wilson requests a trade. It's always the big name superstars that request a trade. So when you have, first round pick N'Keal Harry stepping up to the cutting block and saying, "I'm requesting a trade too," and everybody's looking at you like, seriously? You don't have that power, my man. And he doesn't have that power. I spent the better part of my morning before the show today, comparing stats between N'Keal Harry, who again was drafted with a first-round pick. He was the last pick of the first round of the NFL Draft in 2019. The only wide receiver taken ahead of him was Marquise Brown by the Baltimore Ravens at 25. N'Keal Harry taken at 32. The 2019 NFL Draft was actually a very, very memorable draft class for wide receivers. You're talking about a draft class with DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Marquise Brown, Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Scotty Miller, who caught a huge touchdown pass in the Super Bowl this past year, Hunter Renfrow. Those are some smaller names, but that was a very memorable draft class for wide receivers in probably the last 4 or 5 years. And then you have N'Keal Harry, which granted, he did get injured his first year, and that definitely didn't help him, but you have N'Keal Harry and his camp over here saying, "We are demanding a trade because we are not seeing enough targets," which granted, he might have a case for, but Patriots fans, you tell me if I've been seeing the same things that you've been seeing. He just can't get open on the football field. This explosive, one of the best college wide receivers to ever play the game stuff that him and his agents are spilling milk over. I don't particularly find that to be true, because I've been watching him play. Look, I'm a Dolphins fan. I've watched plenty of Patriots games, even inadvertently, over the past couple of seasons, and N'Keal Harry has more or less been a non-factor in those games. He can't get open. And before anybody says, well, yeah, if he can't get open, he doesn't get any targets, Cam Newton has also been his quarterback for the past couple of seasons, or the past season. Even his first season, he was with Tom Brady, and Tom Brady could make a bale of hay look like Jerry Rice out on the football field if he wanted to. Tom Brady has been able to make some wide receivers that had no business playing in the NFL anymore look like superstars at some point, because that is the greatness that Tom Brady has and can deliver. And here's N'Keal Harry, and he has never, ever, ever looked like he was ever going to live up to any of those expectations. And here he comes again, walking in, hands a piece of paper to Bill Belichick that says, "Hi, I am N'Keal Harry, and I am requesting a trade from arguably one of the best organizations in football." It's laughable. That is laughable to me, and I gotta imagine that even expressionless Bill Belichick had to crack a smile and said, "Go ahead." I mean, the Patriots really don't have any incentive to trade N'Keal Harry. I don't think he will be traded, and I think I saw an article this morning that said he won't hold out, but this entire situation is funny, because again, it always seems like the superstars are the one that requests trades. James Harden, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, like all of the stars in whatever sport you follow or play or whatever have you. Manny Machado, I don't know if he ever requested a trade. Now I'm just naming big names in other sports just to get a nice pool party together. And then here comes N'Keal Harry saying, "I'm requesting a trade too," and everybody's looking like, "Who are you? Who are you again? What have you done for me lately?" I wonder what it was. I wonder what it was that made N'Keal Harry want to demand a trade. Obviously, as I already said, he cited a lack of targets, but I'm saying, hey, maybe it was the addition of free agency of 2B wide receivers that are getting much more money than you that kind of ticked you off a little bit, N'Keal. Or maybe it was the fact that, I don't know, you're not getting, every single pass thrown your way, but it's like, okay, sure, Cam Newton is not the best throwing quarterback anymore, but still, you had multiple opportunities to contribute last year, and you could not get open. And even with Tom Brady, you still could not get open. I was looking at some of the stats for, the players that got drafted alongside N'Keal Harry. Deebo Samuel for the 49ers has only played one more game in his career than N'Keal Harry has. And he has nearly twice the yards that N'Keal Harry has. He almost has 3 times the yards. I think Deebo Samuel is hovering around 1,100 yards, while N'Keal Harry only has 414 yards of receiving in the 2 years that he has been in the league. 81 targets, 45 catches, by the way, 414 yards, 4 touchdowns for N'Keal Harry. And then you have everybody else. DK Metcalf blowing through those numbers. Deebo Samuel blowing through those numbers. Terry McLaurin blowing through those numbers. But here's N'Keal Harry requesting a trade from Bill Belichick because I don't know if he just doesn't like the organization anymore. I don't know if he thinks he's being treated unfairly, or maybe it's the fact that Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne are now in town, which, hell, they would be number 2 wide receivers on any other team besides the Patriots who need weapons. And granted, they spent a whole lot of money on weapons. I think that might be it, honestly. It's the fact that money is being spent on everywhere else to improve people to throw to, and it's not N'Keal Harry. It's not a contract extension for N'Keal Harry, and he gets targeted less and less. And not to mention that, Bill Belichick has drafted a quarterback in the first round of this past draft with Mac Jones, an actual quarterback that can throw the ball with some decent accuracy. I don't know what ruffled N'Keal Harry's feathers exactly, but I imagine that might be it. This might be the funniest trade demand, request, whatever you want to call it, I've seen in the NFL in a long time. And again, I don't think we would be talking about it if this were in the middle of the season. It's not exactly the biggest news I have ever heard, but the fact that there's nothing going on brought this into the spotlight, and it's probably for the worst that it did, because I feel like myself including everybody else is taking a look at this like, man, this is not the person or not the time to be demanding a trade request, especially when it looks like the Patriots, fortunes are going to be turning over a new leaf and they're going to have a really good season next season. I don't know. I find this trade offer laughable. N'Keal Harry, you are not the star that you think you are, pal. I mean, I've heard of diva wide receivers, but this takes the cake. This isn't college anymore. This is the NFL. You can't just blow past receivers in the Pac-12 like you could at Arizona State. You can't get open. You can't catch the ball consistently. And I know that the Patriots don't have incentive to trade you, but I don't know if they would even get a fifth round pick back for you, considering that you have not proved what you should have proved being a first round selection, especially compared to the massive 2019 draft class that the league had at wide receiver: DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Marquise, and AJ Brown. Hey folks, thank you so much for listening to this segment from the Hard-Headed Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed this segment, make sure that you drop a like on the video and a comment. It helps me out a bunch. And if you're interested in watching more segments like this from the show after the show has been completed, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Once again, thank you so much for watching the video. My name is Nick Ryan, and I will see you all again very soon.